I rushed down the stairs to a scene of toppled over hot water, and my 3-year-old little sister wailing. I would never forget the image of her face, distressed as her tender skin still steamed from the aftermath of being burnt. You see, our family was never normal. My parents had addiction issues, so they were in no way capable of taking care of us. My siblings were 3 at the time, so it was on me, the oldest, to do all the chores. On top of that, it was affecting their behavior. They were overreacting at the littlest things, and their arguments would escalate badly. It got so bad that police had to get involved. They asked for my parents to send us away, for the reason being that we were a dysfunctional family. So approximately 6 years ago, we were finally placed into foster care. Our foster parents immediately made us felt at home. They cooked us delicious breakfasts, and movie Saturdays were regular. For the first time ever, my siblings and I finally received the love that we deserve, and we have never felt happier. Even at times when we would miss our real parents, we were just glad that our lives were way better than before. But things started to take a bad turn when our foster parents took in another child, without realizing that it would be too much for them to handle. It was 5 children in total, their own son, the new child, my siblings, and I. Very soon, I noticed a pattern of prejudice towards us. Their own son was top priority, of course. Then it was the new child who had richer parents, and we were placed at the bottom layer of this hierarchy. Though it wasn't entirely bad. At least we were still fed 3 meals a day, but the bills were starting to add up, and I could see our foster parents getting more anxious each day. The stress soon turned into resentment, and the resentment turned into hostilities. I was so worried that they would fall into the same negative cycle that my real parents did. I was right. They started blaming each other for fostering too many kids, pointing fingers at my siblings and I as they yelled, telling us that we were a burden. Every insult they gave us was like a pin into my heart. It was so sad to see that this was the true color of our foster parents, people whom I once thought were family. It became so bad that every movement of ours triggered them. I remember one morning, during breakfast, I had dropped my butter spreader on the floor, and my foster father, without blinking, threw his palm to my face. As I staggered backwards, a small cut appearing below my eye where his ring had caught me. Tears rolled down my cheeks as I bit my lip, afraid to make any noise. To prevent us from calling the police, they even confiscated our phones with the reason of us being disobedient. From that day onwards, it was a vile game of who can go the longest without being hit. We would have to do whatever they ordered, even when it was climbing a ladder to clean the chimney or the window in the 2nd floor of the house. It was now clear to me that our situation was a real-life ticking time bomb, and we were close to the end. The worst finally came when my sister had accidentally knocked over the hot water kettle on herself. I was upstairs playing with my brother at the time when we heard a piercing squeal. It was a yell of distress. My adrenaline surged as I rushed downstairs to the sight of our sister on the floor, thrashing and squirming her petite body as if it was ignited by invisible, scorching flames. My instinct was to remove all of her clothing, and what I saw next had me even more shocked. All I remember seeing was tender flesh that was so severely reddened that it did not seem normal. The steaming hot water pooled around her as she laid on the floor, unable to get up. Majority of her body had been burned, and the wounds started from her chest to her stomach. I could never forget the horrifying image of my sister's face, twisted in pain as her wounds started to swell. For a child that was 2 years old, I knew this was a situation. As my sister groaned repeatedly, my brother started to panic and I struggled to breathe. Our foster mother yelled at us in the background like a madwoman, criticizing my sister for ruining her kettle, showing no signs of wanting to help. It was this exact moment where I lost it. I ran up to her, snatched her phone out of her hands, and dialed my parents. After what felt like forever, they finally picked up, and right away, they drove to us in full speed and called for an ambulance. The ride to the hospital had drained us all emotionally. We could do nothing but watch the paramedics feed my sister pain relievers while performing cold compresses. As we arrived, my sister was rushed into the ER immediately. I could see the instantaneous regret eating up my parents from the inside out. It was the feeling of remorse, of sending us away into foster care. While we were waiting for our sister to be treated, I told them everything about our foster parents, both the verbal and physical maltreatment. They finally broke down and cried, a cry that was filled with guilt and shame. The rehabilitation process for my sister took years, but she was a kind soul that never gave up on herself. I am now 16 years old, and both of my siblings are now 8, and we are in a much happier place than before. Ever since that incident happened, we never went back into that foster home, and our parents had also, bit by bit, learned how to take care of us. For so long, I was consumed with anger towards my foster parents. But I've gradually learned that the act of forgiveness is the biggest sign of bravery. And despite everything that has happened, I am just glad that our family is finally reunited.